Today I'm going to be tying the fry fly. There's been some interest in this fly on the Shad on the Fly Facebook group, so I decided to do a video on it. This is a simple and small minnow pattern. I'm not exactly sure where I first saw this pattern. I have had it in my fly box for a couple of years. I know there are some guides like John Comiskey and others that use it on the St. John's as well as the Mosquito Lagoon. I've fished it in salt and fresh, and pretty much anything that's keyed into small minnows or bait fish will take this fly. I think the original pattern that I saw, they tied this with either deer hair or craft fur. I prefer kip tail, so that's what I'll be tying it in today, some white kip tail. I've seen the fly tied on Aberdeen hooks, I've seen them tied on egg hooks. I actually prefer Heavy Scud hooks. I generally have these hanging around, and I actually like the presentation that this hook gives. It's kind of a jig-like presentation when the fly is completed. Alright, I'm going to be tying this fly with some white danvils, and I'm going to go ahead and start my thread about 1 or 2 mil behind the eye, and then just bring the thread down to the tip of the hook point, and then we'll trim our thread and then just bring it about halfway back up. Next we're going to trim some kip tail, and you don't need a ton of material for the body of this fly. You want just sort of a hint of a body. A wispy profile is what I like to call it. So I'll pull the fluff out. About that much material. And you can tie them in a couple different sizes. The key here is don't tie them real big. You want kind of small flies to quote-unquote match the hatch here. So maybe you know, a shank's length or shank and a half at max. They should be very short little flies. If you've ever seen a mosquito fish, the gambusia, they are generally small little fry, right? So we want to match that. So we'll measure it out and then trim the kip tail down. Just give my bobbin a little counterclockwise spin. It'll help grab the material, a couple loose wraps, and pull tight. I'll capture everything kind of on top of the hook. And then bring the thread back down to the eye. And then you just want to build up a decent size head. Nice cone shaped head. And with some bulk down by the hook tip, and that'll help us attach our eyes here shortly. Okay, something about like that. Let's flip the fly over, and I'll go ahead and wet finish. Trim off your thread. Okay, next we're going to need some holographic eyes. And these are just 1/8 inch prism eyes. And what we're going to do is just stick them to the head that we built up. And if you can't do this with your fingers, bodkin helps. Go ahead and stick an eye on that side, and then stick one on the other. About About like that. I don't know if you can tell in the camera angle here, but I have quite a bit of that eye sitting on top of the hook. And what we're going to do next is actually fill that gap with some Clear Cure Goo. And for this fly, I like the thin. So I'm just going to start by filling that gap between the two eyes with a drop of Clear Cure. Just do it gently. And then you want to encapsulate the eye on both sides with that Clear Cure Goo. But the key here is you don't want a ton of material closing out that hook gap. So I'll apply the material, the epoxy material, and then begin to rotate the vise. And this is why I like the thin, because you can let gravity kind of do the work for you. And what you're essentially trying to do is just build a teardrop shape, but have the Clear Cure Goo kind of hang off what will become the bottom of the fly. It'll add enough weight to flip the fly over when you're fishing it, okay, but not close up this hook gap where you're going to lose strikes. Once you get a nice teardrop shape, set it with the UV light. It's probably 10-15 seconds is enough. I probably do this longer than is required. That should be good. And then to finish the fly, just hit it with a little Sally Hansen's. If you don't finish the fly with Sally Hansen's, the Clear Cure Goo can be tacky and you'll end up getting fingerprints on it. It'll kind of dull the eye of the fly. It probably doesn't matter to the fish, but it just takes a moment. So there it is, the fry fly. This is a great little fly when fish are keyed into gambusia, or the mosquito fish as they're called. Shad a lot of times will work these fish as they're being blown off the pastures, particularly when the river is starting to recede back within its banks. So they'll be working up in that top third of the water column. So having a light fly that's weighted enough to flip the hook tip up, but not sink like a rock, like a fly that has a bead chain or an hourglass eye. It can be the difference between catching a shad and not. More importantly, you can catch a lot of quote-unquote bycatch, schooling bass, stripers, hybrids, crappie, and even gar. Basically any fish that is working the upper water column, if you see activity up top, this is a great fly. Give it a shot.